Our pleasure to have you on SimSpeed TV as we get ready for round 3 of RaceKraft V8 Vets. This new season, season 25, it comes to you live from Watkins, Glen International on the GT layout. The boot Grand Prix style. David Haynes with Brock Caday and Daniel Yeaman in the production to bring you all of today's live coverage on SimSpeed TV. Brock, what a great racetrack to be at for these cars, because they love to stretch their legs. They love to race up and downhill, and you get such great racing and high speeds here at Watkins, Glen.
Hello everyone, it's great to be back in the comments box here for V8 Vets. Watkins Glen is one of the classic American tracks. Like when you think motor racing, and not just sports car, not just NASCAR, just any sort of motor racing, Watkins Glen is one of the first tracks to come to mind. Located in New York, a little bit further away from the city. Awesome track. It brings that, as you mentioned, David, some undulation, some really long straights. It's a difficult track to set up for because it's got so many different characteristics. But one thing is for sure, these supercars are going to love absolutely hoofing it around here, maximising their grip right to the limit, hanging out the rear end and trying to find every little tenth of speed.
Key overtaking opportunities are going to be turn 1. They're going to be at that bus stop chicane, which they don't want you to call bus stop. They want you to call it inner loop. And then also places like down into the chute if you get a good run through the outer loop carousel, or into the toe even as well. Plenty of good spots to have a go. Pit lane has a challenging entry here from the apex of turn 11. The pit exit is much simpler, and it is a long pit lane here as well, so everyone should probably get their own pit stall. We'll wait and see on that one, with a big race ahead of us tonight. Well, we've had 2 races, and they've both been won by the same man, Sean McNamara. So he stands atop the points at 375, ahead of back-to-back reigning defending champion Jordan Ross. They're just ahead of Ken Latta, Jeff Thomas, and Rob Crisdale as our top 5, which of course very close through the rest of the top 10. Travis Hunt, Justin McLean, Michael Stewart, Chad Lewis, and Christopher Burridge as our top 10. Most of the points come from where you finish, but there are just a couple of little bonus points around fastest lap, laps led, joining the Zoom wall, other little things like that as well, Brock.
Yeah, and as always, very tight championship here in V8 Vets. I know we're only up to round 3 now, and these are the standings up to round 2, but it's always going to be tight, and every single race matters in this league. One thing I will note about this top 10 is one of our key players in Wayne Walker, who hasn't had the greatest start to the season, isn't actually in there. So expect to see him bounce back and have a better, stronger result here at Watkins Glen to really kickstart his championship run in this season 25. But tight as always, extra points are on offer. It's all to play for out there, week in and week out. Just small mistakes can make a huge difference in the points.
Absolutely. If you're playing the championship game, you're looking for consistent top 10s. You're looking to pick up every bonus point where and when you can. With the whole field of points past that top 10, Scott Gamble there in 11th. Another driver you could see climb back into the top 10. A previous champion of the top split of RaceKraft V8 Veterans. David Kirby, Luke Allman, Dean Flavel to Dino Dino in 14th. And Christian Smart, Michael Whiting, and Damian Cairns tied up there on 278. Brad Doble, David Nash. And there is the driver you were talking about, Brock, Wayne Walker in 20th.
Yeah, definitely lower than where he would want to be in round 3 now where we are. So look for him to make some moves. Look for Scott Gamble. We've got Dan Hall in 21st, who's shown some good speed, but obviously has had a couple of issues he did at the end of that Bathurst race. Chris Miller in 22nd. Andrew Rushworth, 23rd. Brian Minogue, 24th. We got Stephen Kennedy, 25th. Darren Goosey in 26th, alongside his teammate there in 27th, Gary Buckland. Greg Sharp on the same amount of points as Buckland as well in 28th, so nice and tight. Jamie McKnight only a point behind them in 29th, and then Dean Logsdale 30th. Again, probably a bit lower than where we'd expect him. 31st, Sean Vandermeulen. Then we've got a split change we've heard for Vandermeulen as well. Matt Brunt 32nd, Wayne Sanderson 33rd, Paul Young 34th. Again, one we've seen, John Latham in 35th. Two guys we've seen do quite well last season and haven't quite kicked off as well this season. Mark Point in 36th, Logan Barnett 37th, 38th is Lorne McKee, 39th Stewie Hall, and rounding out our 40 at the top 40 here, Halil Cesar, and I'll finish this off here. We've got Stacey Boyden 41st, Ray Smith 42nd, John Gallen 43rd, Scott McCune 44th, Reese DeGoey 45th, Mike Taliancic in 46th, and Scott Mackay, unfortunately, on 0 points for the season so far, rounding out our 47 cars. Big field, David.
It is, and it always gives us so much action with such a large field. 200 Ks of racing ahead of us here at Watkins Glen. And so to be a classified finisher, you must complete at least 75%, which is 28 laps. Starting fuel, just 50 litres, but an uncapped fuel tank, apparently. Pretty high fuel consumption around here, though, typically. And you're going to see that that's above 4 litres per lap. 2 compulsory pit stops is the way that we usually go racing. And that compulsory pit stop window opens at the end of lap 2. And the critical lap number for the second stop is very, very early today.
And I have a funny feeling that we won't see too many people taking that strategy because the tyres will get eaten up around here. So you might be able to go for an undercut. We know there's early, even, and late stops that you can take, and we look at that strategy most weeks. But 7 or 8, my goodness, you're asking a lot out of your tyres, a lot out of the car, and a lot of focus out of the driver to get to the end with 30 laps, really, and a big, heavy car full of fuel.
Recap our M1 used cars driver of the day. Everyone will remember from last week that it was me, Christian Smart.
Yep. You had me confused last week, I'll give you that much, David. Very confused. But Christian Smart was our driver of the day with some smart driving. No pun intended there. Kept it clean, worked his way through the field at a very difficult track at Mount Panorama, and got yet another solid result, which is what we kind of know Christian Smart for doing. So we'll see if he can back that up come this round 3 at Watkins Glen.
Let's look at our grid with 200 kilometers of racing ahead of us. On the pole position will be the horse that Brock Cadday is backing. It's Wayne Walker ahead of Sean McNamara. Probably the bookies' favourite there in second. Scott Gamble, he'll start from third. Dean Logsdale in fourth, so this could be the kickstart to the championship for a handful of drivers that are outside of the top 10, particularly there on row 2. Jordan Ross on row 3 with Travis Hunt. Ken Latter from 7th with Mike Taliancic in 8th. Moved through the field a fair bit in a couple of races so far this season, but that's a good starting position there in 8th for him. John Latham is in 9th with David Nash in 10th.
And then we have Andrew Rushworth in 11th with Scott Mackay out of 12th. Christopher Burridge in 13th and Jeff Thomas out of 14th. Very tight field here today. Very little between the cars. Michael Stewart out of 15th and Logan Barnett out of 16th. Sean Vandermeulen in 17th and Damien Cairns out of 18th. And rounding out our top 20 here tonight is Stephen Kennedy in 19th and Justin McLean in 20th on the exact same qualifying time. Impressive.
So David Kirby starts from 21st and Robert Crisdale in 22nd. 23rd's where we find Michael Whiting alongside Luke Allman in 24th. Reese DeGoey in 25th. There's Christian Smart in 26th. Dean Flavel in 27th, just ahead of Gary Buckland in 28th. And then The next row of the grid is Greg Sharp in 29th and John Gallen in 30th.
All right, we've got Wayne Sanderson in 31st and Chad Lewis out of 32nd. Lorne McKee, 33rd, and Brad Doble out of 34th. Halil Cesar out of 35th, and Brian Minogue out of 36th. Chris Miller in 37th, and Stacey Boyd in 38th. Jamie McKnight is 39th with Darren Goosey out of 40th. I think we've just got a couple more cars to go. In Matt Brunt in 41st, and Scott McCune out of 42nd. And that is our field of 42 races here tonight. So we nearly got that full 47 car field. I reckon we're on for an excellent race here tonight, David.
Yeah, check my pulse, check my temperature. I have got V8 fever right now this weekend as well. This is a look at our Zoom wall check-in with some of our drivers. Luke Ullman in the top left there. Damien Cairns with the heart rate. John Gallen in the warm-up session right now, flexing his muscles. Dino has had an update. It's version 2.0. No longer do we know if he's, idling or at the limiter. But, and we've lost the calories, I think. But he's doing 109, similar to Damien Cairns. So those two are fully synced up. Sean McNamara is ready to go. Sean Van der Meulen just also having a look around, checking his timing. Greg Sharp with his VR on. Christian Smart running somewhere else, not sitting at the computer right now. Then there's Scott Gamble, who I think's had a haircut in the last week or two. Michael Stewart's given us a different camera angle. No doubt Watkins Glen is one of the greatest racing tracks in the world, therefore it will feature on that map. I've already given you the top hint, which is think of a world map and then condense it down to only the race tracks. And geographically, the tracks are, west of tracks that they're west of, etc. Jeff Thomas there.
And just rounding that out there, we've got Chad Lewis as well in the bottom right as the cars are heading to the grid now.
Weather look.
Yeah, weather's looking great out there. Great conditions for going racing. It's 9 a.m. in the morning. The track's cool. Temperatures are cool. The cars will be nice and gripped up here, ready to rock and roll shortly and try and nail the start of the line. Now, just because they're gripped up doesn't mean they're easy to drive. They come with a hell of a lot of power to wrestle around and very easy to make some mistakes in. So, bit of a review here of the race again. 37 lap race, just over 200 kilometers. You must complete that 75% or 28 laps to be classified in the official results. 50 litre starting fuel, refill capacity of 100% all the way up to the top. Typical fuel burn, 4.5-ish litres per lap, with total fuel to add being around that 110 to 120 litre mark. 2 compulsory pit stops. Pit stop window opens at the end of lap 2 with that critical lap for second stop 7 to 8. However, expect a lot of people to go longer than that to balance out those tyre stints.
Yeah, fill my pint all the way to the top, 133 litres. Something a little unsettling about ordering a glass of wine out, because it always looks like it's only half full, but it's the amount of wine that you should be having. Never a problem when you order a beer. Watkins Glen, high speeds, big slip streaming, and we are getting set to go. Barney's just adjusting his sunglasses there. Ready for 2.
Yeah, just wait.
Just a tiny bit around the curve of the final corner, a long way from where your pole sitter is going to set off. Scott McCune in 42nd will be.
Big old field here when they curve around the last corner. It shows you just how many big rip-roaring V8s we've got here ready to rock and roll. The guys at the back will have a bit of a harder start being on that slope, to be honest, to get it going. But we're looking here at Barry. The revs are rising. And we're off. Great start for Wayne Walker there. He's going to fly away from the front, clear anyone around him, and he's off in the lead. Rest of the pack gets going. We've got a bit of carnage back there. They're going 3-4 wide. We're through turn 1. 4 wide through turn 1 in the middle of the pack. Guys, calm down. It's lap 1. Let's make it through. Looking at the back of the pack now, side by side as we come up through turn 2. They'll get this sorted out into turn 3 now. Down at the back straight. That was up through the S's, and now we're heading down towards the bus stop, which is going to be interesting. This bus stop has been slightly remodeled, something we didn't mention earlier with the latest iRacing's update. So some of the curbs are a little bit different. So let's see how they manage this. All line astern. Oh, we got some side-by-side action through there. Everyone keeping it nice and clean, though, and I'd say fairly successful start here around Watkins Glen.
It's the boot part of the racetrack, though, where things get a little bit tighter. So we're heading down through what locally they know as the laces of the boot at the end of the chute towards the toe. Where you go uphill. Car wants to wash out initially. Gets a little difficult to drive off that hairpin corner up the hill on the exit. It's looking so far so good for Wayne Walker.
Yeah, and despite that excellent start he got, McNamara is keeping him honest. He's not letting him run away with anything here, which, I mean, would we expect anything less from Sean? He's been on a ripper to start this, but he's not going to give anything away for free. We're looking at Mike Taliantich now, who's just got a little bit of distance to the car in front, being Ken Latta, and behind has Travis Hunt. So Taliantich has already made up a couple of spots here. At unfortunately the expense of those around him, but probably one that I didn't note, and sorry about this, is Jordan Ross has actually dropped 3 spots, so he's now behind his teammate in the top 10. Not a great start for Jordan there. Travis Hunt is going to have a little look here. Not going to do anything about it at the moment. Taliantich has got his number as we come down into turn 1. Looking back a bit further in the pack into turn 1, seeing if there are any moves. That's David Kirby there. Nothing coming of that. Oh, this is dicey coming up into good racing room being given there, but we're going to go line astern through the S's.
Glen's had a recent update, so they've gone and painted all of those curbs, and then heading through here, there's a new anti-cut curb on the way in. Sean McNamara takes the race lead from Wayne Walker, so that is a place that you can pass if you follow closely up the S's. If you get a slipstream, then heading into the inner loop, you can take passing opportunity, and for Sean McNamara that opportunity puts him into the lead of the race. No safety car, so the compulsory pit window will open at the end of this lap. And you'll be able to fit a lot of fuel if you want it at this first stop, so you could take it early if you fancied.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see if there are any takers on that really early stop to try and get your first compulsory out of the way, and that really gives you that flexibility to, if we have a safety car later in this one, pit, get your fuel in and get out. So there'll be a variety of strategies here tonight, which will be very interesting to see as they unfold, but I imagine it'll be a bit of a follow the leader when it comes to our leaders, all not wanting to give each other the edge or the advantage by pitting too early or too late. As Wayne Walker has, we can see from the back of McNamara's key, Wayne Walker is just falling back into the clutches of Scott Gamble behind him, and McNamara's just got that little bit of breathing room around him that he needs to be comfortable heading down into turn 1.
Just a couple of little groups, like your top 5, then a tiny bit of space to Taliantich, leading a couple of cars there in 6th, and then I think you find a tiny bit more time as well between Latham in 9th, actually, and Andrew Rushworth in 10th. Up the S's is flat for almost any race car except these, so you've got to be on the correct line. This is where overtaking might be possible. Wayne Walker gets a couple of car lengths further back behind McNamara. Gamble kind of begins to put him under pressure. And then as you look through the field, Thomas just ahead of Stewart. David Nash into 11th at the moment.
down one spot on where he started, but looking fairly racy as we go on board now through this boot section of the track. Up, we were talking about the undulating nature of Watkins Glen. This is a great view of that uphill right-hander that goes under this little short chute here, and we're going to go up over a hill and we're going to dive back down again. So it makes it really difficult to get your traction right if you're trying to brake or accelerate over these hills, as we see here, and down, plunging down, and then we're going to go all the way back up again as we come through to meet the circuit back at what's known as the Cup layout. So looking pretty smooth here for David Nash, just keeping it cool, calm and collected early in the race. As I say, that gets a little bit of opposite lock, but all under control.
And then a look at how pit entry works here. There's a yellow line marked that typically, ostensibly, you're meant to use when you go into pit entry. You will end up slow at the apex of the final corner when you go to pit entry, no matter how you attack it. Not really had any takers. The Dino's in. Dean Flavel will actually come to pit lane.
We saw John Gallen came in as well.
Chris Miller, Luke Allman. So there's a few going for this early stop. It is a relatively early stop. A little bit of a gamble. You're going to look to then, use a little bit of clean air for a longer middle stint. McNamara gets another car length or so with this race lead. 6/10 ahead of Wayne Walker. Oxdale in fourth with the fastest lap of the race. But it's a very, very close fight there. A lot of drivers with a 150.1 or 150.2.
Yeah, very tight. We tend to see that at the front of the field is they just keep banging out fast lap after fast lap to try and keep up with each other. The draft does help a bit with that, but they don't. We saw this at Bathurst as well. The leaders were all within thousands, hundreds of a second, not even tenths. So they really are on an even keel at the moment. We talk about it most weeks. We've seen a real elevation in pace and racecraft from a lot of our drivers. It's where we've seen Jordan Ross come in and everyone has lifted to meet him there, and we're really seeing those examples here with these guys running these to the ragged edge but not crashing them and finding that speed.
Pit lane speed has gone down 5 miles an hour here at Watkins Glen. Used to be 72 kilometers an hour, and I think I'm seeing 64 now. That's going to change not a whole lot. It's the same for everyone, and we have 2 compulsory pit stops. They are compulsory pit stops. So in a world without compulsory pit stops, it might make a 1 stop look more favorable than a 2 stop, all other things being equal. Chris Goey has a penalty from our race control.
Yeah, just heard from race control over the radio there. It was something to do with a lap 1 incident. There were a few little things we saw in the background of the shot, but hard to keep up with 42 odd cars starting a race. So we'll see if we can get a replay of that one and understand a bit more about where that penalty has come from for Goey, but I believe he's now in. So we're going to get this replay now. Looking from the back of the field here, just looking at Goey. We're just going to watch this all unfold. Here we go, this sort of drone view, so to speak, down at the turn 1 here. This is where it could have unfolded. Ooh, that's a very awkward one. Okay, yeah, that's... David, I'll handball this to you. What do you think of that one?
I think it's uncharacteristic because Goeys normally behave themselves in New York.
That's the rumor I've heard. So just looking at Luke Allman in this replay, who he was the one who was aggrieved, so to speak, and the unfortunate victim out of this one, and losing his rear bumper there, although it might reattach. So unfortunate for him. Halil Cesar has a bit of damage there. We've just heard, while spinning down into turn 1 and taking another car with him.
Didn't really hold his brakes on the rejoin there. Things are always very tight here. You can see the pit wall's right there. Might got a tiny bit of a touch from Chris Miller as well. Brett Doble spins around. So yeah, a fair bit happening back there.
And some penalties being handed out. Halil has just picked up one for that contact there. So a couple of people, race control acting fairly swiftly within these first few laps of the race to cleanse some of these penalties and get them out of the way to clear up the rest of the race. So we love to see it. Our race control usually works pretty quickly and fairly to decide these ones. And now everyone can race on knowing those penalties are out of the way.
McNamara's lead that it extended a little bit comes back down. Walker gets closer, so does Gamble and Logsdale. Ken Latta drops just a tiny bit further away, closer to the reaches of Taliancic, who's now got his teammate Jordan Ross in behind, because I think Travis Hunt has been passed by Jordan Ross. So that's a move inside the top 10 there with Latham and Rushworth completing the top 10. Jordan Ross gets a little bit closer back towards where he had started.
Yeah, to be curious to see what the Synergy Sim Racing teammates do here, whether Taliancic has got the speed to drag Jordan along and essentially create their own little draft train to try and get past some guys, or whether Jordan is allowed past and can then drag Mike through. So this will be really interesting to watch. We know Ross has plenty of speed week in, week out, no matter where we go. So now it's about saving a result out of this one. And I mean, we saw him do it last week in Bathurst. He managed to rip out a great result in the end, even though at some points it wasn't looking that great for him. So coming through the bus stop here now, just getting ever closer to the back of Taliancic, and that's Ladder up ahead, who's actually fallen off the back of that top 4 pack and now into the clutches of the Synergy Sim Racing duo.
Peak speed is there going into turn 4, 275 k's an hour. Field now compresses as things get a little bit twistier with the outer loop carousel turning into places and towards the toe of the boot. Race leader is just exiting, and this is the line. It's bringing everyone just a little bit closer together. So here, fifth. His personal best lap is incredibly competitive, but it's just only a 150.7 last lap. A couple of tenths slower than the cars in front, a couple of tenths slower than the car behind. Just brings him away from the leading group and back towards this group for 6th place.
Yeah, and just keeping enough distance there that he doesn't have to worry too much about Taliancic, but I guess having lost the draft from Logsdale up ahead of him, now he's a bit vulnerable to the likes of Taliancic and Ross behind. So this is going to be the interesting one. If Ross gets the run here, he might be able to get this done on Taliancic, keeping in mind their teammates, and obviously we don't want to have any teammates crashing into each other. But no, he's going to stay in there, closer than ever, and Ladder's going to just breathe deep and happy for another lap, knowing that he doesn't have to watch his mirrors too much.
Speed trace up the hill. Yeah, they do have to be just a little bit careful. The wall is so close. Of course, it's pretty blind heading uphill. You've got to be on the correct line to then carry enough speed onto the next part of the straight. Back at Latham, Rushworth, and David Nash. Rushworth, burnt copper and black. Accelerate Sim Racing Ford Mustang is the last car inside the top 10. And David Nash is knocking on the door.
Yeah, another one of these packs. We really are seeing some of these draft trains just start to develop, as Damien Cairns has actually put in the fastest lap of the race. That's a really good effort. So definitely some pace there. Looking now,
tyres, even with the weight of the fuel, the clean air and fresh tyres for Damien Cairns is... I was thinking the undercut wasn't going to be particularly powerful with only a couple of laps difference and the weight of the fuel in the car, but Cairns has proved us and me wrong.
No, well, I would have agreed, David. I would have thought, particularly because he's going faster than our lead cars at the moment. We are only nearly 8 laps into this, so there's definitely some merit in the undercut. So I wonder if we'll see some people come in now, keeping in mind we have actually just gone past our critical lap number as Scott Gamble just peeled off.
Yeah. Wow, okay, from well up in the field there in that top 4, he has come in. He has to slow down to 64 kilometers an hour, or 72, now 64. Interesting.
There's probably
There's
probably a couple of different strategy options here. You can either fill the thing up as much as you can here, take the long stop, and then use those tyres and then just do a splash and dash towards the end if you need it and get some freshies on, or split your fuel more evenly between the two to give you a lighter, faster car. So we'll have to watch some of these pit stop times as more and more cars come through, because I reckon there's going to be some alternating strategies throughout the field. But interesting that Gamble's come out of that pack now where he had a bit of draft and he was competitive with the cars ahead of him.
43 pit stalls means everyone should get one, but if you're past about 40, then you come into the pit entry and you need to make a very early and sharp turn to get to your pit stall. That can catch some people out sometimes. Scott Gamble is the leading car to have made the first compulsory pit stop. He has gotten out ahead of Damien Cairns and Robert Crisdale, and that will give him a lot of free air right now. Bit of wheel spin for Wayne Walker. Ken Latter's defending. Talyancic had a really good run coming out of the heel of the boot and is alongside him at the top of the hill.
Yep, that'll be interesting to see how that one pans out. Looks like Ladder held on to it in the background there, but I also point out Walker has got a bit of pace back. Like, we saw him dropping off a little bit, but now he seems reinvigorated now that fuel's starting to drop off from the start of the race. Look at him there. He's just not quite close enough to make a pass, but looking very racy. And there we go. The times, it doesn't show much improvement lap on lap against McNamara, but my goodness, every little bit counts. And if you can just get those little bit closer, that's what it's going to do. Is we're just seeing now more and more cars coming, including Jordan Ross, to do his stop. So he's gone, I need to get out of where I am. Going to make this happen, as McNamara goes slightly defensive on track as well. So, Jace David, there's a bit to unpack at the moment, keeping us on our toes.
And these cars fly over that new curb on the way into the inner loop. It does not seem to affect them at all. Your apex is still the end of the Armco barrier.
Yeah, these supercars aren't strangers to big sausage curve trying to make them go slower. And I think in most cases, you can safely say, sausage curves have not stopped a V8 supercar from flying over them and maintaining speed. So they will absolutely take the opportunity to get some airtime.
Tyre bundle hasn't stopped them. Are you going to come to the Gold Coast?
This year?
Yeah.
No, I want to come again. I want to come again to see some tyre bundles get knocked around. Oh, and of course see you, David. You have to show me where M1 used cars is.
Yeah, that'd be fun date idea. The finest used car dealership in Slacks Creek, Queensland, just off the M1 motorway. Side by side again, and Ken Ladder has ferociously defended this. Talyancic has not been able to get by, but both of them look like they're heading for pit lane. Your race leader is Sean McNamara is coming in. He will be followed by Ken Ladder, Michael Talyancic, Travis Hunt, and a whole bunch of other drivers. Ken Ladder has a penalty for speeding on the pit entry. What happened there?
Oh, I mean, I don't think there was any contact between any of the cars, but it looked like there was a lot of brakes locking there, including Ken's, and it's just maybe that's the effect of that 8 kilometers hour slower pit speed. You've got to slow down even further, and I know it doesn't sound like much, but you're at the maximum to get these things slowed down, trying to not lose any time. So that's a big one for Ken Ladder, and he was in a great position tonight, so that's really going to send him down the order once he serves that penalty.
And he slowed down to 72 kilometers an hour, not 64. Or is it crossing the yellow line that's done it for him? He got a little bit out there, and then gee, I thought the speed looked all right, but he looked like he might have used a little more of the yellow line than others.
I think, yeah. So he's the cones there are not. they're just before what you would consider pit entry. So he was probably about 20 kilometers an hour too fast there, unfortunately, and that's going to be a hard one for Ken to come back from. But you never know what safety cars and strategy can do. So we'll see what happens. Still watching Wayne Walker and Dean Logsdale. Just a few of the cars that are yet to blink. There's about 7 of them now, including the 2 leaders we're watching here that still haven't taken to the pits. So they're running this first stint out long, draining the tank, which I can't imagine they've got a lot of fuel left. And in fact, here it looks like Walker's going to come in as well. Here we go. Yep, Logsdale following him in. So this will probably be the beginning of... Oh, Logsdale really tested the limits of the brakes there. Latham behind them too. So I reckon we'll see the field cleanse here. But the curious thing will be, where does Scott Gamble rock out in all of this? Jordan Ross actually ended up ahead of Gamble by the looks of it, looking at the timing tower there too. So this could be on for young and old as they all come round and we kind of find out the new order after all these pit stops.
Other than the penalty, there's one more good reason to be careful on your pit entry, because that attenuator that they've got here, I found the Watkins Glen track damage fees, if they have to replace a sand barrel, that's $1,500.
That's incredibly expensive sand.
Yeah. Guardrails are $550 US per segment. Guardrail post, $250. Tire wall belt, $150 per foot. And if you gouge the track surface, perhaps by dragging some metal, that's $300 asphalt repair. Okay, first pit stops underway here. And what has it done to the field? Oh, there's contact going up the S's. Wayne Walker hold on to it, and he's got into Taliancic, who's sideways at the top of the hill. They're barreling through, and Logsdale's got damage. More damage.
McCarthy. Oh, Jesus. Yep, Latham's just gone in as well. Yep, the cars are learning to slow down there. They're still coming through at full pace despite the yellow flag and still collecting some cars here. So that was a massive one. Damien Cairns as well. And this is mayhem. Their track is nearly blocked. You can see in the background there, I don't know what they're doing. More cars are going to get involved in this. John Gallen has gone in as well.
Ron Miller will sneak through as we go. Safety car. Mackay might have no engine at all. There's a lot of other damaged cars. Dean Logsdale has had to cut some of the corners. His suspension is toast. Taliancic's car obviously no good. Wayne Walker, I think, has only got drive from one wheel if he's even got an engine at all. So I reckon that thing is just about done. And I'd almost rather be on a tow truck than try to bring that around if I'm Scott Mackay. Let's go and unpick how that all started. It was contact between Taliancic and Walker, side by side heading up through the S's after the pit exit blend.
Yeah, that was... You could tell just as we flicked to them there out of the pits that was going to be a particularly nasty one. I didn't expect to have so many other cars involved, but what'll be really interesting to see here, and we're kind of getting the back end of this because there's a little bit of contact. Here we go. Thanks, Dan, for going back a bit. So Walker's pretty slow there, and Taliancic has gone up the inside. They've made contact here, and then that's where the big contacts happen, where they've both gone around and started to block the tracks. So this is where other people start to barrel in and get involved, which is hitting Walker's car there. That was Mackay that just went in. We're going to see a few more cars pile in, but it was just... I don't know whether Walker closed the door or Taliancic drifted up into Walker. Either way, there are a lot of guys whose night has been ruined after this one.
So then one of Latham or Cairns slowed down to get through and then got hit by someone who stayed at speed. Kai rolls backwards. Already riding the wall is John Gallen before he arrives at the scene. Because he ends up in the marbles, unsighted, checking up.
Yeah, caught out by the guys in front of him checking up, and unfortunately that was it. So we've got we're going to see a few people go into Walker here.
You know what we've got now that we haven't had for quite a while is a Long Beach situation. So this is already happening between Cairns and Latham heading up the hill. And then, whoa, yeah, creates number 2. So everyone who'd already made their first compulsory pit stop gets to make their second compulsory pit stop underneath this safety car. Drivers who hadn't yet made their first compulsory pit stop are only making their first under this safety car. So you now have a split across the field. Gary Buckland leads the race with only 1 stop completed. Scott Gamble in second has done both of his stops. We're past the critical lap number, so everyone can make their second stop and, you know, wash their hands of any more requirement to pit. We have Dean Flavel, I am not sure about.
So it looks like most of the field has cleansed that second pit stop. We did see most of them come in pretty much before the lap at the safety car in that incident. Although Gary Buckland is the only driver to have just done his 1 pit stop at the moment. So currently leading the field, but may see him peel off to basically to get his fuel on board, get a new set of tyres, and that'll take him to the end of the race. So what we've got here now is, unfortunately for Wayne Walker and Mike Taliansich and a few other drivers that were having decent nights, they're all out. But we've got Scott Gamble, who was running around in third, who will be effectively the leader of the pit stoppers, with Jordan Ross and Sean McNamara behind him. I tell you what, does that not set up a tantalising 20-odd laps to the finish of this thing?
Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting. Quite interesting indeed when we get going again. Going to get 1 wave around for Halil Caesar. So he gets waved by. Combination of losing a lot of time on the opening lap plus penalty plus the 2 pit stops had seen him fall off the lead lap. She will now get back.
And we're just getting the car. Wayne Walker needed the tow, so he's been given permission to do that. So we should be back racing again fairly shortly, I'd imagine. And as I say, that race control confirms at the end of this lap they'll be going green. So Gary Buckland is still out there in front of the field, so he will resume and take control of this race when it resumes, and be the leader. So this will be an interesting one for Buckland. Like what the strategy play is here. Maybe hoping for another safety car, a bit of chaos.
Wait for the second safety car.
Yeah.
yeah, right out of my mouth as well. Probably that is one of the better case scenarios for Gary Buckland, in all honesty. Dean Logsdale is in 21st right now, having repaired his car. One of the wheels came off, and he's come around, pitted, and resumed in 21st. The big gainers. Christian Smart's got a couple more again. Jamie McKnight's had a couple. Scott McCune from the very tail of the grid.
Yeah, so there'll be a few people who will be gainers out of this safety car in this incident, really. And Scott Gamble, actually, with that second stop, is one of our gainers, because he was behind Jordan Ross. Because Ross underfueled a little bit at the first stop. So with this safety car, it's allowed Gamble to actually jump back up there and be in second spot first of the pitters. So I'm sure there's going to be a few stories of success and woe throughout the field in terms of the strategy they thought was going to carry them through to lap 25 or 30. But this is the state of things. And here we go. We've got SG himself, Scott Gamble. We chat to this bloke most weeks. He's usually in and around the podium, and certainly will be looking to take home a win if he can snag it tonight.
Yeah, he's the de facto race leader, net race leader. Both of his compulsory pit stops out of the way, and Gary Buckland in front of him at the moment. And Jordan Ross is right back in the picture. Sean McNamara just in back behind there. Travis Hunt, David Nash, and then Travis Hunt's teammate Jeff Thomas. Michael Stewart's just ahead of his teammate Logan Barnett, who's gained a spot or two, and our top 10 at the moment completed by M1 Racing's Christopher Burridge. Or maybe that's not his team, maybe I've got it wrong. Most positions gained, Gary Buckland for the moment, Jamie McKnight, Scott McCune, Darren Goosey, Brian Minogue. Safety car is in the pit lane. You're going to get going again soon. Can you believe we're barely a third of the way into this race, basically? Everyone's completed their compulsory pit stops. We're restarting from a safety car. There is so much action still to come, and Scott Gamble knows exactly how to do this. I reckon he's looking for the race lead almost immediately in turn one. No overlap with Gary Buckland until he gets into the braking zone, puts his nose down the inside. Inside's where you want to be with that camber on the road. Jordan Ross uses all of the road and all of the runoff, and we're going to be side by side heading up the hill once again through the S's. Gamble into the race lead. Buckland sits in second. Jordan Ross, who ride on board with, not able to get through at turn one. Travis Hunt's had a great run up the S's as well, in behind Sean McNamara as everyone's new tyres come up to temperature.
Yep, so Gamble, he knew that move was important to get through there. So we're just looking back now at this group of cars here, which is McNamara, Hunt, Nash, and Thomas. As now, Ross is down the inside of Buckland, and they look like they make a little bit of contact there, which is potentially going to let McNamara through as well. So Buckland's getting a little bit beat up here, being up the front of the field, but now your top three are all through on Buckland, and next up on, unfortunately, next up on the radar there is Travis Hunt, who is going to look to take a chomp out of Buckland, I'm sure, a little bit further into this opening restart lap here. But Gamble has got a nice little gap there. It's exactly what he would have wanted out of that restart, and it's exactly what he's gotten. So we'll see if any moves are thrown down. No. Buckland's going to maintain that fourth place for the time being as we're coming around now into the last sector to finish this restart lap.
Stewart was moving around a fair bit there, just in behind Jeff Thomas. And he's got Logan Barnett. Same livery, slightly different colour behind. So looking backwards from Jeff Thomas. Lap completed. It's a fair bit of work for Jeff Thomas. Scott Gamble leads us 18 laps to go, 16 completed-ish. There's your turn one. A little bit of camber helps you through, as long as you slow down enough in time to hook the camber and not get spat out. He still holds fourth. Travis Hunt's been trying to get around. It hasn't happened. It hasn't worked for him. Go into the inner loop again.
In fact, Logsdale has gotten past Hunt by the looks of it. Or is he unlapping himself? No, excuse me. Sorry, I'm saying something wrong. Apologies, guys. Apologies.
Logsdale is still back in 20th, so he's made one spot since the restart. He's just ahead of the Dino Dyno, which I reckon is probably doing about 110 right now on a tightly packed restart like this.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon? One.
Oh, he said 110, so Brock, you've got a, Price is Right meal.
I'm going to go 117. Restart. Adrenaline's up.
Wow, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, close. 113, so depending on what rules you're using. I was perhaps slightly closer, but it's
You
up
were
there.
slightly closer. I've got to give it to you.
Oh,
Hang on, he's hurt us. He's hurt us.
Anything over 100 is solid work. 21st place at the moment, just ahead of Chad Lewis. Dean Logsdale, of course, has gone by him, and then Logsdale will be looking at Stephen Kennedy and Jamie McKnight. Top 18, a new fastest lap of the race for Jordan Ross, who sits in second. So closing in on Gamble. There's Logsdale moving around looking for that move, as we were talking about.
Yeah, still plenty of time to go in this one, but these restarts obviously compress the field, and that just means that everyone sees an opportunity to go for a move. So now we're going to go back to Hunt and Buckland from 5th and 4th here. So there is a bit of a train behind Buckland, a bit of a cork in the bottle, but he's doing well to defend it. These guys can't get past him at the moment, so he is committed to potentially waiting for that second safety car if it comes, David, as we both suggested earlier. But right now, he's got a whole bunch of cars lined up behind him. None of them can get past at the moment, though. So Gary Buckland, I guess keep doing what you're doing out there because it's working.
Sounds a little bit quicker in the braking zones into the apex, but he's not driving off the corners in much better fashion. Again, toe of the boot, doing a whole lot down this next straight. He's quick in the brakes into the apex, but he needs to be quick off one of these exits, and that's not happening for him just yet, and that's why he's not getting by Gary Buckland. He's got that SimSpeed sticker on the nose. He might try to trade that to Buckland's bumper.
I think so. I honestly expected him to give it to Buckland in the parabolic, at the start of the boot rather, and he didn't. He kept it nice and clean, but surely there's going to be a bit of frustration boiling up here because these, Buckland, he's up 24, but potentially a bit out of place with that pit strategy. So a few of these guys are going to want to be making some moves and getting further up the grid, and some of them are already having great races. Michael Stewart, who we're looking at the moment, up 7. Logan Barnett behind him, up 7 as well. So there's some really big movers and shakers who are going to want to keep going with that trend at the moment. So we can see up ahead here that battle is now. We also get to see Michael Stewart, and there you go. He has got the red dot on Watkins Glen there on the greatest racing tracks in the world. So he's made sure that we can see it.
Yeah, in between Road America, Donington Park, and Pocono.
Is that Lime Rock there as well? Or Summit Point? No, Lime Rock.
Okay, Mid-Ohio. I'm trying to figure out what's the one directly below it. It's between... Is it some writing or something else, or is it an actual track between VIR and... There's some odd tracks there, actually. You do have Lime Rock Park, though.
iRacing rookies taught me enough about that to know that track layout like the back of my hand.
Oh, it's... I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Pau, P-A-U, the French tracks there. It's not Avis, surely. Is that Detroit? The new Detroit? No. Oh well.
We'll have to ask Michael.
There's no way to know. There's no way to know.
If we ever race there, he'll put his little red dot in there and it'll cover the track. But a cool setup that Michael's got there to show us the greatest tracks there.
Google that poster and look at it in high definition.
Add it to the post-race research. Back on board now with Michael. We love looking at his setup, but also his greatest racing tracks in the world poster. He always does the service of putting the little red sticker on the one that we're racing at that week, and we do race at some of the greatest race tracks in the world. It's where?
Martinsville. So then where Martinsville is written is bigger than the actual layout of Martinsville, so that's what's throwing me off.
Ah, okay. That would make sense. Mystery solved.
I think so.
As Jordan Ross is hounding the back of Scott Gamble and has really reeled him in just over the last few laps. to the tune of 3.5, 4 tenths. So this is going to be interesting. Gamble, he knows how to defend. We've seen that. He knows he's a very good racer. But Jordan Ross has just got that outright speed and is really good at probing for weakness and getting that move done at just the right time. So it'll be really curious to see how they play this. McNamara just backing off a bit in the background there in third place. Certainly still in a good spot for him for this race. And if anything comes to blows with Gamble and Ross, then it's going to be McNamara's day all over again. So wait and see what happens here. We both know Gamble and Ross are smart racers, so they're not going to try to do anything too silly here.
Close for your race leaders as they come over the start-finish line. They have different racing lines through the final corner. Some slightly different lines through turn 1. Now up through the S's. Jordan Ross in some dirty air. It's this left-hander here where you need to make sure you don't wash out wide and into that Armco on the outside, because it's $500 a segment if they've got to replace it. And I don't think your car's much cheaper.
No, I'd agree. Definitely want to avoid any damage to track or car. Both are costly ventures, as we saw with that earlier crash as well. We're going to look a bit further back here and just have a look in the middle of the pack and see what's going on. So I believe we've got Logsdale here. Apologies, it's just McLean in the other of the retro Ford cars. Which we love seeing at Bathurst, and love the fact that the retro is still back here at Watkins Glen. Just this battle pack here for 13th. So we've got McLean, and just behind him, Whiting, Christian Smart, and David Kirby. So right now, Michael Whiting is really the guy under a bit of pressure from his teammate at Fishy Motorsports, nonetheless, there. So Smart, he was our driver, the M1 Used Cars driver of the day last week, and is looking to try and impress us again this week, showing some really good pace. And we're going to go on board with Christian as well here as we're coming towards the last sector of this lap and back onto this cup layout.
It's
up 11
fish,
positions too.
2 fish, orange fish, blue fish for these 3 cars in a row.
I feel like that's something from my childhood that I should remember, and I just maybe I've suppressed it because I'm not a big fish guy.
Just don't eat green eggs and ham. Christian Smart took a big deep breath over the start-finish line there. Got his Dino down under 110. Is it in through the nose, out through the mouth, or in through the mouth, out through the nose?
I think it's in through the nose and out through the mouth. I guess I haven't done much relaxing breathing lately, so I wouldn't know. But Christian, whatever technique he's using, it's working for him because he's up 11 and he's not looking at slowing down anytime soon. So he's...
Give it a go on your day off and you'll feel ripper. Race leader Scott Gamble is currently defending from Jordan Ross, who had a go at him. And there's nothing between them for the race lead. Again, Gamble's got to defend. So Jordan Ross is decided now's the time to have a go. Pushes a little bit wide through the toe, and Jordan Ross tries to come back underneath him. So these two are beginning to really fight it out.
Looks like we've had a bit of trouble earlier in the lap for Scott Mackay, but we're going to go back to this battle here with Gamble and Ross. So, I tell you what, Ross is looking very racy, like he wants to get this done, and I am sure Gamble is going to want to hang a first place medal, so to speak, or trophy in his cabinet. So he's going to want to keep this one here. He's in the background there. We've got Damien Cairns being black flag, I believe, for that incident that happened on the run to the bus stop after the fact from the Talianchich and Walker incidents. So still a few things to be unravelled there, but we're looking here. Jordan Ross now, he'll be wanting to set up the run here. It's not about turn 1, it's about when you get down to the bus stop. So he's going to want to set this up and try to get as good a run as he can, get in that draft and see if he can make a move. He's actually dropped off massively and is now going to be certainly not to go and move at the bus stop. So I wonder what that's all about.
Looking like it's all going to play back into Sean McNamara's hands, and with Gary Buckland still in 4th, this top 3 pull away a little bit from the field. That gives them the freedom to attack each other a little bit, because they're still separate from the rest of the field, a little bit insulated in a way. This looks pretty good here, so he gets back some of what he lost in the high-speed corner. Actually, how late's the apex for these cars to really try to straight line that traction? They have a different racing line than, you know, a high downforce single seater would. Drastically different.
Sure, with these cars, it's all about point and shoot. You want to be getting on the throttle hard when you can just shoot it straight out of the corner. And speaking of, Jordan Ross wasting no time here. He's got a far better run with nowhere to go as we now come through this second last turn here, heading towards the last turn on the circuit. And right now, Gamble just seems to have him covered in the areas where he can get an overtake done, and where Ross has a little bit more speed, there's no place to overtake, at least not safely. So for the time being, it's going to stay line astern here, but you could just sense there's probably a bit of frustration starting to boil for Ross. I mean, he's a pretty cool-headed driver, but at this point in time, he's going to want to be getting by and getting on with this race in first place. So I'll be interested to see if there are any moves thrown that are a little bit more desperate than usual to get this one done.
Way closer this time through the S's. Scott Gamble drives down the middle of the road before coming back to the racing line, throwing it into the inner loop. You've got to launch over the curbs here. So particularly that sort of second and third curb as well, where the change of direction happens to then turn back left. Jordan Ross did pretty well there. Really good exit.
Yeah, and keeping it a bit tighter than Scott as well, Jordan Ross. So he looks like he's got a bit more control over the car at the moment, a bit better drive as well. Keeping in mind, they'll have very similar tyres on after that second stop as well. So this is just all raw pace from the two of these guys trying to fight this one out. But Jordan Ross definitely is looking a little bit neater and tidier, and like the car is working a bit better for him at this point in the race.
Certainly a chance McNamara gets a little bit closer, and this is where Jordan Ross is so strong. Left-hander, top of the hill, coming back onto the main track. So good there. It's not a conventional overtaking opportunity. What it does is keeps him close for the rest of the lap here out of the final corner. When we rode on board with him, he was holding 4th gear, letting the revs get down. Looks like that might be Cairns serving his penalty. The leaders go by into one. This is where it's tougher to stay close. Heading up the hill here. Ross has got it good again. Flat out, right-handed, top of the hill. Follow Scott Gamble in the slipstream. Now Gamble's on a compromised line. The car sit and turn through the bus stop just. Ross Fancy's having a bit of a dive somewhere here.
Yeah, I shouldn't be so silent. I'm enjoying this battling. These are two guys that are racing to the extreme. Gamble is doing a great job defending, and he's placing the car well and doing a great job at slowing Ross up when he needs to, particularly through the bus stop where Ross does have the better run. Gamble isn't letting him get down the inside at the exit there and getting that move done, entering the boot. So this is some really good driving by Gamble, and Ross is trying to make it through. We've seen him; he's popped the nose out at a couple of points now, at a couple of opportunities, but nothing has come of it. And yeah, again, you can see, you pointed it out last up, David, that run out of the left-hander up the hill back onto the cup layout is excellent, but you can't do anything with it. The overtaking opportunity isn't there. These cars don't have the grip to go side by side through these last couple of turns successfully without somebody coming to blues. So in saying that, Gamble has had a bit of a wiggle there out of the last turn, and Ross is going to look to the inside here. He may well get this done, and in fact, Gamble looks to have braked a bit early there and just pretty much given it to him, maybe trying to get the under-over on him and get a bit of a run into the bus stop. We'll go on board with Gamble now and just see what his plan is here.
We've got to stay to the right-hand side of the racetrack heading up there to get this left-hander perfect, because then it's flat out from here towards the bus stop. Once Jordan Ross had enough of a go, Scott Gamble basically let him have it. Sean McNamara is back in towards this top 3 fight. There's where there's more curb, and then the curb at the left-hander there is really important. It gets a bit simpler on the exit once you've got your speed and your change of direction correct on the way in. And this is how much closer McNamara has gotten. 50.7 last lap, or 51.1 for Scott Gamble. And some of the previous laps were 50.9 from our leaders as well. So McNamara just finding the right pace at the right time here. I think this final run is longer on the tyres than they would have done without the timing of that safety car. So that makes things a little bit challenging to the end here as McNamara just kicks the rears loose a little bit. He might have had a new haircut as well.
He might have, feeling fresh off the back of a couple of wins, and wanted a new look to bring to Watkins Glen to keep shaking it up and making sure he's feeling ready to rock and roll. But he might be on for better than third here, because Gamble has already dropped off the back of Ross quite a bit, and all that battling has just, as you suggested earlier, David, has just brought McNamara right back into this to try and get back to where he qualified in second place. So Gamble probably thought, I can take a breath, I can relax a bit. Oh, McNamara with a massive tank slapper, and even the look on his face there, he knew it. He knew that was nearly race over for him. Great save from McNamara, because that could have gone far worse. So that was a fun one to be on board for.
Yeah. Fantastic to, see what the car is doing and then see what Sean McNamara's face is doing. Gary Buckland is in the pit lane, and that releases everyone from 4th place down. Travis Hunt is 5 seconds away from the race lead, just in the back of shot there ahead of David Nash. Teammate Jeff Thomas has dropped a tiny bit away as well towards the teammates of Michael Stewart and Logan Barnett. Burridge and Rushworth complete the top 10. It's Jeff Thomas getting airborne, getting a slide as he catches the curbs.
Yeah, Jeff Thomas has dropped off just a little bit from his teammate, and David Nash up ahead there. Nash and Hunt have their own little breakaway pack. They're now in 4th and 5th, as it looks like Buckland is also pitted. So now we saw it in that first stint. Just a couple of these packs develop, and it looks like that Hunt and Nash can help each other out here and push forward. And Jeff Thomas, who we're looking at, he's got his own problems there behind him with Stewart and Barnett, who I mentioned earlier were both up 7 positions at the time. I reckon they'll both be up 8 now. They're going to want to look to make some more, make a good case to be the M1 used cars driver of the day as well, I reckon, David. So plenty more to play for here, but we're still seeing those little drafting packs being a key part of tonight's racing.
Looks like that Suzuki Jimny from last week has sold. So we need a new car of the day.
That's a shame. I was hoping to buy that one.
Well, you snooze, you lose at M1 used cars. Thing is out of here to a new home. Sean van der Meulen runs 12th. The green version of the 9.5 SimSport. Red version for Logan Barnett. Orange version for Michael Stewart. A couple of auto throwback or whatever it is for Sean McNamara that he's locked in for the whole season. You know that.
I have to give a shout out to Sean here. I love his SimSpeed gloves. I have the exact same ones, and they're a pretty cool. I believe they're a Greg Murphy number 51 inspired set of gloves. So yeah, fun little callback there that SimSpeed has done. But great to see the onboard here. Get a little the camera angle where we get a little peek at his steering wheel there, and the nice dash he's got on it as well, and also the focus on his face as he's firing through these turns. Up 5 positions on his starting there. And you can actually see in his mirror there the cars behind him too with that angle. That's actually quite a fun one to see. A bit of what he might be looking at in the mirrors to keep an eye on the situation around him. But he's looking locked in to get to the end of this one and maybe make up another position or two and have a successful day out at Watkins Glen.
I've got the same pedestal fan, but mine is on oscillate.
Well, aren't you fancy? I can't afford an oscillating fan.
Oh. Kmart can sort you out, don't worry. The middle aisle of Aldi sometimes as well.
I like the sound of that. I'll send you a message when I've gone down to my local Aldi, and if I get a pedestal fan, you'll hear about it.
It's great. Bit of camping stuff, bit of caravanning stuff there sometimes. Sometimes they'll have bike helmets for cheap. Amazing. Jordan Austin's got a 1.3 second lead now, so he's pulling away from Scott Gamble. Sean McNamara is hunting in on that second place, and throughout the field, things are still incredibly close. It's Luke Allman has got to worry about Ken Latter.
Really good recovery here for Luke Allman, considering he was spun around on lap 1 in that incident and has basically gone back to effectively 40th or 41st. Great recovery to be up to where he is now, albeit dealing with Ladder coming straight down the inside of the bus stop there. But nonetheless, you know, to be within 2 spots of where he qualified after a very tough start to this race shows a good bit of grit that we are used to seeing here in the series. But Allman's usually one of the guys that is a bit further up the field during the race, so good to see him bounce back. But Ken Ladder, speaking of someone bouncing back, got that penalty for entering the pits a little bit too quickly earlier, and he's now up into 25th. So he is looking to try and make a bit of a comeback and just reduce the damage of what's been a pretty costly night for him, unfortunately, with that error entering the pits earlier on.
Is Ken Latter on Zoom? He has been many times before. It's 25th right now, and I think he'll pick off a couple more if he can. Flavel, Brian Minogue, Scott McCune, the next 3 for him. Chad Lewis leads this group. He's another one of our drivers from the Zoom wall. A piece of data that he doesn't have at his disposal.
He's unstoppable. He's like Tony Stark with all that data. Unstoppable. Great to see he's up 13 positions. I also like the little stream deck he's got going on the right-hand side there, potentially for a button box. I use my stream deck for a button box because I find that very useful, but he's got a very nice setup there. The quadruple screens, and as you mentioned, with all the data any sim racer could ever hope or want for. A little bit of a scratch adjustment of the headset there. Get rid of all the marbles on your windshield as you head into the bus stop. Got to set yourself up well to get in there, and through he goes. So in 19th at the moment, in the top 20 and up 13. Good effort from Chad tonight.
Drums also in the top 10. Michael Stewart dropped a bunch of spots, so he was in 6th or so, I thought.
He was up with Logan Barnett.
Thomas, but ahead of Logan Barnett. Now Logan Barnett's ahead of Jeff Thomas. So something's happened there. And Michael Stewart's back here behind Rushworth ahead of his teammate Sean Vandermeulen. So last lap was about 1.5 seconds lost for Michael Stewart, and this one's not been great either. So he goes looking for the inside versus Travis Hunt here. Versus Jeff Thomas, I should say. Does not quite work out. There's another drama later that costs him more. Andrew Rushworth gets him in a bit of a squeeze. The next lap, and then Stewart had a slowdown from cutting the second apex.
unfortunate for Michael Stewart there, because he was having a very good night. Still up 4 on where he started, but we were, he was knocking on the door of up 8, up 9 on where he started there before. So unfortunate there, but still going on his way through to maybe collect the top 10 if he can get that position on Rushworth. But we're now looking back at this battle for second and third. We're knocking on the door of only about 7 laps left to go in this one. We're on lap 30, so those laps since the safety car have flown by. McNamara hasn't been able to get past Scott Gamble yet. Jordan Ross is nearly 2 seconds up the road, so this is going to be a battle for second and third on the podium between these two. McNamara, we talked about consistency earlier in the championship. There's got to be a thought in the back of McNamara's mind of just how much do you want this second place versus how much do you want an incident? Because if an incident happens, it could really mess him up later in the season, depending on how all the drop rounds work out. So consistency pays. If you can stay on that podium, that's going to be a great run for him. So I'll be curious to see how he approaches these next few laps in behind Scott Gamble.
Estimated live points, excluding some of the bonuses, I would understand. We'd still have Sean McNamara leading the championship, Travis Hunt making some gains, but Scott Gamble jumping into that top 10, like we said, was a fair chance and possibility. Chris Dale and Ken Latta would walk away from Watkins Glen somewhat diminished. Scott Gamble's super defending here, but McNamara's going to follow him. It's like T20 bowling.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the play is here. We've still got a little bit of time left in this one. Feels like Gamble's pace isn't quite at the peak we'd expect. We're seeing even Ross isn't. Ross, actually, he's not too far off Ross's laps. Excuse me. He's not too far off what Jordan Ross is doing lap on lap, just a few tenths in it. So is it McNamara just biding his time to try and do a last minute pass with a big wiggle there again? He's got a... Okay, that answers the question. Neither of these guys care about an incident. They're just trying to get the best position they can in this thing, which is definitely a racer's mindset.
Gamble had a 5 out of 10 wiggle and McNamara had a 7 out of 10 wiggle. And this is by far and away the longest stint anyone's done on tyres. In the case of Scott Gamble, he pitted after just 6 laps, got new tyres on. 4 laps later, safety car came out. He went and got a new set of tyres. The longest he'd run a set of tyres was 6 laps in this race until this stint, where he's now 18 in with 6 more to go. So it is drastically different what they're doing in this final stint versus the early part of this race. Here's Logan Barnett, he's up in the 6th ahead of Jeff Thomas. There's Christopher Burridge, 8th.
Nice little battle pack, this one here. They're not too much movement at the moment, but just, again, we were talking about this with Ross and Gamble. It's just setting up that run through the S's to try and give you a bit of a draft. Thomas is just a little far back on Logan Barnett at the moment. Also, in saying that, Logan Barnett has been one of the pace setters of the night in terms of positions made up, being up 10 at the moment and into that top 6 now. So he seems to be really doing well and trying to make up some positions. As we're now looking back at Michael Stewart, who is on the back of Andrew Rushworth, still back there and trying to get his way into that top 10 and recover something from that incident he had earlier. And we're looking at the wider battle pack here, the battle for 9th. So 9th through 14th are all within just a couple of seconds of each other, really. And you can see that whole pack there. That's a really good image there of all of them coming through. So not much in it between these guys, and really all it's going to take is a couple of wiggles and you'll have potentially have some issues with the guys behind trying to sneak past you in the late stages of this race.
I think how much track you can use hasn't changed amongst the graphical updates. So we still need to be tiny bit cautious. We're on board with Andrew Rushworth there, as it was Justin McLean running a little bit wide through the heel. Final corner where you track out point. safer barrier. Ninth to the 151.5. Rushworth at the 151.1. Michael Stewart behind the 151.0. Things are getting very hot right here, 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Yeah, pushing on very hard, even at turn 1 there. I would venture a guess that at least a couple of these guys got an off-track there, using the off-tracks that they've got at the moment to try and eke any little speed they can out of the cars. They know we've only got a few laps left here tonight to seal the deal on this thing. McLean, though, just looking like he's got the number up 11 on the night on Rushworth and Stewart behind. They come through now, heading through this boot section of the layout. Really equidistant from each other at the moment. No one looking to throw a move, but you can feel there's a bit of energy in this battle pack that something might just happen. Stewart, we know he's got some pace. He was higher up earlier on in the race. Can he use that and get into a position to make a move happen?
And then Rushworth had a dig at him, so he might want to have a dig back. Particularly at the bus stop is where they traded a little bit of paint door to door. Lines top of the hill for the left-hander. McLean looks like he slowed it up a little bit more on the entry. Still got a good exit. Fuddled Andrew Rushworth just a tiny bit. Another one, Dean Logsdale. Remember, he restarted from the safety car in about 21st or 22nd. Picked off a couple as he's gone and is now up into 16th. When we saw the live points, it had him remaining inside of the top 10 of the championship, but dropping a spot or two. He reduces that with every position that he picks up between now and the checkered flag. 16th at the moment. Just having a look at David Kirby in 15th.
Yeah, not quite got the run here into the bus stop, but very much showing the pace that he's got since that safety car and trying to make up some positions considering the rough race that he's had. Come through here, still not quite close enough to make anything happen. Kirby's doing a good job to keep him behind. Kirby also up 6 for this race, so keeping it nice and clean, having probably a bit of a quiet one. We haven't seen too much of David Kirby tonight, but some days that's actually pretty beneficial to to keeping it clean out there on track. As we're going to look at Crisdale now, who was another one of our, I think he was one of our guys we're going to see drop a little bit now. He's staying in the top 10, but in the points he will drop a little bit, with Stephen Kennedy behind, showing a little bit of pace, trying to catch up with gaining 2 seconds on Crisdale as Logsdale spun.
Oh, Logsdale's gone around at the toe of the boot. We've seen so many drivers getting sideways on the exit there. You can also touch the grass and sometimes end up in a whole lot of trouble. I think he's done yet more damage to the front suspension again. Looks a little out of sorts at the moment, and certainly he's struggling. So what exactly happened? In behind David Kirby, he's lost the rears early in the traction.
Just, you were talking about it earlier, David, the older tyres potentially catching some guys out and creating some scenarios where they have a lose like this, unfortunately, and he just gassed it up, and once the car's already turning, there's not much more you can do with a fairly significant amount of damage, and looks like even some steering damage too. So that is an unfortunate way to end this one for Logsdale after, with only really a few laps left here.
During last weekend's Formula One Grand Prix, David Croft kept going on about, I think, Kimi Antonelli's steering wheel not being completely straight. I've driven a couple of racing cars. They're just like that sometimes.
Hey, sometimes the driver likes it better that way. Each their own, really.
For an oval setup, sometimes you want to build a little bit of offset in. It's not a normal road course setup. A little bit of contact there between Lasher and McCune. McCune ends up in the grey. He's full opposite lock, and then it snaps back. The rest of the field's going through. Not how McCune would have wanted it.
And I think we've got battling for second place at the moment. McNamara has just made contact with Gamble and has gone through on him as they're coming back around to the cup layout. So there was contact there that led to the pass for second place as that incident was happening between McCune and Ladder.
So Sean McNamara has an unblemished record in V8 Vets so far this season. Doesn't look like he's going to make it 3 wins from 3. We'll take a look at our drivers now in second and third place. McNamara and Scott Gamble. As with 2 laps to go, Jordan Ross has a near 6-second race lead. Big Logitech G Astro A50 wireless gaming headset in white fans right here.
I reckon, but I'm not sure they're going to be fans of each other after a little bit of contact for the podium, and Scott Gamble's it's about as animated that we see Gamble get with the look on his face and some of the mannerisms there, but we'll see how that all pans out. We'll get to have a chat to these guys afterwards, provided this all finishes as it is. We're going to shoot back now to Logan Barnett, someone we've talked about a couple of times, having a good
McLean
run
with a
tonight.
slowdown. Andrew Rushworth with a slowdown. Both of them sideways, going through the S's. McLean's is cleared. Rushworth's still got it. Michael Stewart's going to want to come through here if he can. Sean Vandermeulen just behind as well. McLean leading down in to the next sequence of corners. Andrew Rushworth has cleared his slowdown. So 9th through to 14th. So much to happen.
Well, even just with a lap and a half left, it's still all unfolding. You know, this isn't over until Barney waves that checkered flag, and at the moment that is still just over a lap away for these guys, and we're seeing side-by-side action here, 2 by 2 as they come down. Stewart on Rushworth trying to make this happen. Rushworth goes into another postcode and comes back on the track, and Stewart's going to get that one done there. Now he's behind McLean. In the background as well, Vandermeulen looks to have gotten past Christian Smart. Smart is going to fight this one here with Vandermeulen side by side into the second last corner as they are preparing to take the white flag to go to the last lap of this thing. Smart with the inside line into the final corner. Vandermeulen's going to try hang it on around the outside here. He might just slingshot this thing all the way around and get this done down to the turn 1.
Well, they see the white flag. Smart's got the inside where I'd want to be for 1, just based on how the banking works. It goes out wide for Vandermeulen. He'll drop away from this fight. Jordan Ross leads 6.4 seconds. McNamara's pulls more than a second on Scott Gamble. Travis Hunt's up in 4th. David Nash in 5th. We had Logan Barnett, Jeff Thomas, and Christopher Burridge 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then that next group still led by McLean for the moment. Gorman's not close enough to attack Brian Minogue, and that's going to be the last time that they go into the inner loop.
Yep, not too many opportunities left now. Allman impressively is up 1 on where he qualified despite having been spun. So he's had a really good recovery drive, probably looking to try and grab another spot or 2. We're going to have a look now at Logan Barnett. And we've been watching this battle closely over the last few laps as we head to Jordan Ross to finish this one.
For Jordan Ross, starting 5th, but he's going to take his first win of season 25 of RaceKraft V8 Vets at Watkins Glen in round 3. 200 Ks later, Jordan Ross ends up out front. Really good long stint pace. Timing of the safety car, and his slightly short fill also helps him. He's going to go burn out in the runoff of turn 1 as McNamara comes by in 2nd and Scott Gamble in 3rd. McNamara will keep his championship lead. Scott Gamble's chance of a win goes somewhat begging. They're also gaining really well with his strategy and around the safety car.
Yep, as we see a few of our other drivers crossing the finish line here. Taliancic there, even after that incident that we saw that triggered the safety car, still getting back out there and coming home in 28th. Logsdale and McKee. Logsdale, a night that he won't want to remember. McCune and Buckland now racing to the line. Buckland, who we saw a bit further up the pack, it'll finish 31st and 32nd there for McCune and Buckland. McCune also having that spin off the back of the contact with Ken Latter as well. So certainly a little bit further up in the pack, but unfortunately has now finished 31st with Gary Buckland behind on that alternate pit strategy we saw after the safety car. So a lot to unpack from that one. I'm sure Race Control is probably going to have a little bit more to do tonight before the night's over for them, but wow, some good racing out there as we still have, excuse me, a few more cars just coming around to finish this one as well, with Brunt and Greg Sharp coming around now, last turn, and they will finish this one here. And we're on board here with Greg Sharp as well. I think Sharpie, as his Zoom name is, was the last of our Zoom wall participants to have a look at. So we've gotten to see the setup. Great to see.
The VR.
Always impressed with VR. Wish I could grab it because I reckon I'd have a hoot with VR in iRacing.
Yeah, and there was a few cars as well that we lost over the race, knowing that you've got to complete 75% to be a classified finisher. There's a few that didn't reach that mark. But for the 37 laps, Jordan Ross wins from Sean McNamara and Scott Gamble. Travis Hunt just behind him in 4th and David Nash in 5th. Things quieted out a little bit once Gary Buckland made his final pit stop. And those guys went through in 4th and 5th. Logan Barnett 6th, Jeff Thomas 7th, Christopher Burridge, M1 Racing in 8th, and then 9-5 SimSport teammates, of which there are plenty at the pointy end of the field. McLean and Stewart in 9th and 10th. Andrew Rushworth has crossed the line in 11th. Michael Whiting and Christian Smart and Sean Van der Meulen, David Kirby, Robert Crisdale, Steve Kennedy, Chad Lewis, Jamie McKnight, and Ken Latter.
And that'll bring us to Wayne Sanderson in 21st, Brian Minogue 22nd, Luke Allman with a good recovery drive in 23rd, Dean Flavel 24th, Brad Doble 25th, Darren Goosey in 26th, Chris Miller 27th, Mike Talianchich in 28th, Dean Logsdale after that late incident 29th, and in 30th, Lorne McKee. And here we are, Scott McCune 31st, Gary Buckland 32nd, Reece DeGoey in 33rd, Scott Mackay 34th, John Latham 35th, Matt Brunt and Greg Sharp in 36th and 37th, rounding out our drivers that were running on the circuit. Then we've got John Gallen, Halil Cesar, Damien Cairns, 38th, 39th and 40th there, and then Wayne Walker and Stacey Boyd we saw exit the server earlier on and won't be counted for that 75% race distance. And that is all she wrote from Watkins Glen. That was an interesting one with a safety car and some good racing there.
Yeah, certainly that early critical lap number, safety car early, shook things up, really benefited everyone who'd already made their first pit stop before that safety car came out, that's for sure. Let's see, our whole podium, and they are regular podium finishers, are standing by. It was Scott Gamble who finished 3rd. And he joins us now. Hello, Scott.
Hey, how you going, guys?
How do you feel after that one? Early safety car, long final stint on the tyres, bit of work.
Look, I'm pretty exhausted, mate. You know, the long races, it's past 10 p.m. It's 50-year-old bedtime now.
Only in silly places that defy the sun and try to make up what the time is.
When you got kids, mate, they rise for no one. So sunrise is their alarm clock, mate.
Watkins Glen's had a little graphical rework, but I think the scan seems the same. So there's not a whole lot new to learn.
No, it's not. I mean, it's beautiful. Like during practice coming up over the hill, I was admiring, along the back straight, admiring all those buses up there on the right-hand side. I thought that was really nice, pretty neat. The track's track's a really good track. Like, we've raced it for years, and it's nice to race it. Like, I really like it. I'm not sure about the bus stop. Probably not my favourite layout. Lots of people love it. But, yeah, overall, it's a great track to race in the V8s, isn't it, you know?
And your former teammate and now championship leader, Sean McNamara, he was pretty robust towards the end there as well. How'd you see that?
Yeah. It is what it is. You know, he's got to have a move as well. You know, he's got to have a go at some stage. And I knew he would. You know, I've got to be able to turn in at some point as well. So it is what it is. I mean, you know, he sees it one way, I see it the other. And, you know, it's just a tough one to swallow, especially with what's happened with, you know, throughout the week with 9-5 and us, you know, but it is what it is, you know. Congratulations to him. He's a worthy leader of the championship, and you know, I'm super stoked for him. I'm really happy for him. So, yeah, I didn't call it into race control. Couldn't be bothered. You know, God bless him. You know, whatever. But the yeah. Yeah, I'm sure Sean feels he had the car up there enough, and yeah, good on him.
Well, a slow-ish start to the championship for you, but this, I think we saw on the provisional points, is going to bring you back in towards the top 10, and we head to some other, you know, interesting tracks still to come. We head to a sprint round still to come. How's your energy for V8 Vets to close out the year?
My energy for V8 Vets is pretty low, to be quite honest. There's a number of reasons for it, but, you know, one, obviously my health, and two is probably what happened in one of the 40 to 49-year-old championship last year. You guys probably not privy to it, but that really took it out of me and sort of cut me deep. And, yes, I've been a bit flat on the V8 Vets on that side of it for a while because of it. But, you know, irrespective, I still give it my best shot. Yeah, we've had a rough start to the season. I mean, we got pole there, which was really good. And then we ran into some problems with Jordan. So I felt like giving that spot up easily, although Jordan was a lot faster than me, giving it pretty easily to him tonight, even though, yeah, after a little bit, you know, I thought was worth it and to give it back, you know. And then obviously the other race, well, it didn't sort of go our way either. But yeah, this was good. P3, I mean, I'm super stoked with that, and who wouldn't be? So, you know, especially around these drivers. So yeah, very happy with the way it's going. And well, we got another 7 rounds, sprint rounds. Yeah, that might be a little bit better. We'll see what happens. But yeah, the energy's, well, I'm 50, you know, so it's hard for me, and I'm not as fit as what I once was, mate. And yeah, so it does take it out of you, but yeah, it's still good to get in and be able to mix it with these guys, because, you know, they are top-notch drivers. So I'm pretty happy to still be able to mix it with them.
Beauty. We'll catch you around, Scott.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks. Yeah, I just want to take a shout out, you know, for the guys that have checked in on me, and, you know, for things that haven't been going my way over the last few months, you know, really. Yeah, Sean, you talked about Sean. Yeah, he's been great. He's checked in a few times. Brett O'Brien, Dan Hall, people like that really appreciate it. Why, you know, why they've done it and how they've gone about it. So, you know, thanks to them, and thanks to you guys for your broadcast and asking the questions. And hopefully we can see you next time. Till then, peace, guys.
Go third place joining us, and Sean McNamara will be on the line too, Brock.
Welcome to the comms box, Sean, and another successful night out racing V8 Vets for you, mates. Talk us through that race and how you thought it went. It was a bit of a topsy-turvy one with that safety car and that long stint at the end as well.
Yeah, it was, to be honest, I forgot it was daylight savings and I almost missed the whole thing. But yeah, it's a typical Watkins race, I think. You can't really break away unless you've got a big tyre advantage. I know Jordan sort of skipped a bit at the end there, but, you know, obviously Scotty and I were sort of racing on. But yeah, I think the strat was pretty limited. I think you sort of just you ran the thing out the first one. That safety car spiced it up, and I thought Gary, you know, even though he didn't have his second CPS out of the way, he did pretty well to hold on for a while there. So that was pretty impressive. I don't know where he ended up, but that sort of helped us skip away. Just trying to drive the car clean again, and look after it a bit, and it had tyres at the end of the race. But yeah, it was it was a good race. It was an enjoyable race.
Oh, that's good, mate. Talk us through that battle with Scott towards the end, because obviously once Jordan Ross got past him, you guys were going back and forth, and there was that move within the last few laps. Talk us through how you, I guess, made that happen and got there in the end.
Yeah, I think it was just Scotty had different lines to me. So I was quite strong off the corner. He was quite good into the corner. And yeah, I don't know if he just used up a bit of fronts, and it was starting to get a little bit worse for him with a bit of push. But yeah, he had a little wobble off whatever corner that is. So I got up the inside, and yeah, I felt like I was sort of far enough up. Scotty and I get along really well, and I enjoy racing him. Very respectful. I didn't feel like it warranted a redress, so I don't know if Race Control will have a look at it. But yeah, look, I sort of felt like I got the car up beside him, and yeah, we both broke in there. I just felt like he just turned in a little bit early. There's a little bit of net code in it, but I think there would have been a bit of contact anyway. So look, that's racing. Sometimes it's not, it's not what we want to do. We don't want to make contact, but yeah, sometimes it happens, and if it's on me, if Race Control do look at it and it's on me, I apologise to Scotty, but kind of felt pretty confident that I held my line there and had enough of overlap, and yeah, it's just a bit of racing, but we'll go again next week.
Yeah, look, great to hear your side of it there, Sean, and we do appreciate the honesty on that one, mate. And speaking of next week, we're headed to Algarve, which is a pretty different track to what we've been looking at with Watkins, Glen and Bathurst. How are you looking at your preparation to tackle that? That's going to be a 200-kilometre race again next week there. Yeah,
to be honest, yeah, 200 Ks. My prep's been very different this season. I haven't been doing a lot of laps. I've just been sort of jumping in and enjoying it. So Algarve's a pretty cool track. So yeah, well, I'll do a few laps, but really not doing too many. I think leading into this, maybe done 20 laps leading into it. So a bit of a different approach this season, just sort of relax and have a bit more fun with it. But I'll do my normal thing for the team. I'll try and punch out a lap time and do a bit of a data video for the guys, and share that for them to to try and move them along a bit and speed them up. But a couple of boys had good results tonight as well. So yeah, that's what the week will be. We're pretty busy at work at the moment, so that's a bit of the focus. But should be a good race next week. Be interesting.
Yeah, glad to hear your new approach is working for you, Sean. Obviously, 2 firsts and a second on the season. That's just about as good as you can hope for, mate. Look, before we let you go, is there anyone you want to shout out, thank, anything like that?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, SimSpeed, all you guys from commentary to broadcast, behind the scenes and everything. The Vets community, the Vets management. Massive thanks to all those guys. RaceKraft Simulations, RSW Graphics, Track School, Track Days, Racing Ears, Bin the Blade for Palin. Sorry, of course on the car, and yeah, it's been a good one, and let's go again next week.
Beauty, Sean. Thanks for your time, mate. Great race tonight. We look forward to seeing you again next week, mate.
Cheers, guys.
See you, mate. All right, we will bring in our race winner, David Jordan Ross, to have a chat to him on his maiden win for the season.
Back on the top step after at least 2 races away. Jordan, how's it feel?
Hey guys, good. Yeah, that was a bit of a lucky get out of jail tonight, because I didn't do too well in quali and I got a bad start. But mate, the strat seemed to work pretty good, and yeah, once I was able to sort of get in front, it was the car was pretty good.
So that extended final stint based on the timing of the safety car, did that sort of perhaps help you out a little bit, that you could benefit from a long run on the tyres where you looked really strong?
Yeah, and I think even coming out in second benefited me, because I was able to sit behind Scott and just save my tyres, for I think it was 10 or 15 laps or whatever behind him. And, when I felt that I had enough tyre advantage, I was sort of able to put a bit of pressure on him and stuff like that. So maybe if I came out in first, if I took a little bit less fuel, maybe the reverse would have happened and I would have used my tyres up.
And then on the restart, yourself, Sean McNamara, Scott Gamble, you got past Gary Buckland. The rest of the field didn't quite so quickly. It sort of separated the top 3 from the rest of the field, which might have affected how you chose to race and how much risk you were willing to take?
Yeah, early in the race, after I made my qualifying stuff up and got a bad start, once I dropped back in the pack, I expected the pack to sort of spread out. And I think 10 laps in or whatever it was, 8 laps in or whatever, I looked and our pace was still pretty good compared to the leaders. There was a couple of laps there where a couple of tenths quicker. So I thought if we could just get a bit of track position, we'd have good pace. And yeah, probably once after that safety car, once sort of us top 3 guys on the podium got out in front, it was just between us 3.
So you're back again, another season, Synergy Sim Racing, the Ford Mustang. It's the same livery functionally as has brought you some championships before. Is that where you're gonna remain?
Yeah, I like it, so I'm not going to change it, and I can't paint it. I have to go hat in hand to Hobbo to get him to paint me a new car, so we'll just leave it how it is. It's looks pretty good and looks pretty good on the top step, so we'll keep it.
Sean McNamara also going the Lucky Undies strategy for livery, but you got by him today, and he now continues to lead that championship, but you get a little bit closer with 7 rounds remaining. Is it still feeling feasible and achievable?
Oh yeah, 100%. There's plenty of racing to go, and I'm looking forward to it. It's not just Sean, it's Scott and Wayne. It'll be a good battle for the whole rest of the 7 rounds.
That's a great spirit, and we look forward to seeing more of you, particularly with Portimao to come next week.
Yeah, we'll watch Bathurst this weekend and probably dust off my hangover Tuesday, and we'll do some laps and figure out how to drive it, mate. But we'll see you next Thursday.
Right, big dose of V8 fever for everyone across the next week. Best of luck.
Thanks, guys. See you next week. Well, hopefully.
Gee, it's going to be a big weekend for Jordan Ross, but it was a big night for him as he took that race win, and as he ended up in the top 10 of the points. You bet he has. He's closed that gap, not by too much at all, to Sean McNamara now.
Yeah, so I mean, we were talking about it earlier, David. There, great to hear from our podium, and we were just having a look and seeing where they're at now. So McNamara, Ross, as always, tight in this championship. So McNamara's got 2 wins, Ross has got 1, but only 26 odd points in it. And we're just seeing up the top there, just a bit of information that the bonus points aren't calculated yet. So there could be some bonus points aren't calculated yet. So there will be a bit of change in this, but it'll be roughly this anyway. So all to play for. We are only 3 rounds into this, 7 rounds to go. But I think there's a bit of a fire underneath some of our drivers in that top 10 to really fire off and have a good run of rounds as we head towards the midpoint of this series.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's Portimao, Algarve, Circuit do Algarve. My Portuguese pronunciation is not great. It's like Spanish, but more difficult. That's where we head next week. You'll see it here, live on SimSpeed TV. And did we decide on a driver of the day, Brock? I'm very much open to your suggestions.
Yeah, look, I think I was pretty convinced by Logan Barnett today. I believe it ended up being up about 10 positions, very much had the pace around that top 10 area, kept it clean, avoided some incidents. I'm leaning towards that, but what's your suggestion, David?
My suggestion is that because I dropped out of the race server, it hasn't correctly calculated my most positions gained. Yeah, Barnett from 16th to 6th. That's tough to go by. So let's give Logan Barnett the M1 Used Cars Driver of the Day from round 3 of V8 Vets from Watkins Glen. There we go.
There we are. Good run for Logan tonight. As I said, just kept it clean, avoided any incidents. There was a bit of chaos out there, safety car driven and not. So M1 used cars, car of the day, driver of the day, well done to him, up 10 positions and solidly in that top 10, so a good run tonight.
There's no Chevrolet Camaros last time I looked at the website for M1 used cars, but there is a 2020 Holden Arcadia. So think about that if you need to put 5 people in an SUV. And one of the sponsors on board this season for RaceKraft V8 Vets, alongside Logitech G, Nova Sim Sports, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Player One Sim Gear, LGC Images, and SimSpeed. That has been round 3 of season 25, split 1 from Watkins Glen. We'll see you live on SimSpeed TV next week for round 4.